Hi guys, my name is Baradante, and welcome back to the Neonates horror game character creation process. Now today I want to take a little break and talk about colors. Yeah, as some of you guys mentioned in the comments, and as I keep thinking more and more myself, I'm kind of hating the colors. The idea is all like pretty solid. I really like it. It will be fun to play with these guys and everything, or against these guys. But the colors, like the initial colors of just purely black thing, right? If you just apply, it was pretty much just a black shape. It's such a cliche for horror games to have like pure black shapes going on, you know? And I don't know why I immediately went with it. I guess because the idea kind of evolved from the horrific eggs from the parallel universe. That's why they look like that. And we switch egg white with the egg black. But all of that in the end gives us just black goop guys, which is all over the place. And all of them pretty much look like shapes of venom. And I'm hating that. And what I hate even more about that, like my greatest test for whether the design works or not is whether I like the thumbnail for a video. And these guys, they just never make a good thumbnail because they're just black silhouettes with all the details disappearing in the fact that they're just so dark. Plus, the whole theme of the game is very fleshy, as I always keep repeating, and all of our characters so far had very fleshy kind of thing, right? The grandpa, or the first witness, had this back in front. Grandma had this very ambiguous looking hole in her chest. Then we have the giant arm with a bunch of elbows on it and everything. You constantly look at skin. These guys should also be much more like skin. But since this video is just gonna be about, you know, making a good decision in terms of changing the colors for the characters, I was thinking let's do a little research online on which colors, you know, work, or maybe which colors we will see too many of, so we should avoid that, you know. Since like my main inspiration, my main best place that I want to go to in my head when I'm thinking about creating my own game is, you know, creating my own version of Silent Hill in a way. So let's look at what those monsters look like. I remember they're pretty much like just... You don't really remember what color Silent Hill monsters are. But yeah, initially I think they are kind of more on the light side. And I think that's very interesting. So let's have a look. Alright, so Pyramid Head, right? The #1 monster of Silent Hill. And he has a dark, rusty thing on his head, which is a piece of metal. So I can see in here there's a pretty solid work with like materials. There's cloth, there's skin, and there's rusty metal. So there's a certain combination of things. I thought I would just look at colors, but I can see I need to think a bit more on materials. Combinations of tactile things that should make up the appearance here. I actually have that very much in mind, but I never actually vocalized that, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So in here, again, just a vague robe, kind of dark, and the skin is very pale light. Well, in here is just a bunch of flesh, which is like this, and pretty much this is also just a bunch of flesh with a like metallic thing just morphed out of it. Interesting, like these designs are from the newer games, the ones that most people don't like very much. And they have this like simpler approach to the characters, you know, they have sort of like, oh, it's a complex, grandiose thing, but really, it's just a bunch of flesh. There's no metal involved, and no leather or robes or bandages, none of that stuff. It's just a bunch of bits of bodies stuck together. The original Silent Hill had a lot more of that, like different materials combined, because they shape together into a certain context, you know? And here's a bunch of these guys going on here. And yeah, like they're all light, but also with a lot of like blood. They're like constant wound, pretty much. But there's always extra materials, extra details blended into it. But yet again, like the very first enemy of Silent Hill 2, right? He is a super simple one. He's just a bunch of flesh. So it depends. See, I'm not seeing a lot of specifically bandages in here. I'm not even sure like that first picture of Pyramid Head, is that bandages or not? Because I was really into this idea, but I think in the actual game, it's kind of like more of a doctor's rubber glove kind of thing. And mannequins and nurses also wear that kind of stuff usually. So yeah, as I generally said, my whole like color scheme for the game is in shades of yellow. And overall, it sort of starts in like softer storytelling, calm shades of yellow, but the most terrifying creatures that are truly from the other world, fully developed ones, they will have this combination of like this. One of my super old pictures before I became Boro Dante, I was just Dante, and this picture was a huge deal. It's very abstract and but it's really like, in the context of today's video, it's very like Silent Hill related in a way. It's really like diving into that matter of things. But specifically, it was actually inspired by like one band that I used to listen to, and it's like my huge inspiration for the whole project right now as well, even though I don't listen to it too much. It's called The Angelic Process. And it usually also had these album covers that had these shades. To me, it's like a combination of like old iodine stains, burning sensation of the iodine. Ugh, you guys get the point, right? Like that picture represented exactly what I'm talking about. And that's where it's like coming from. Like stains from the wound in general, they also have this color, you know, not necessarily blood stains, but like just stains of pus, right? So specifically those shades, like very flamey orange, wounded flesh secretion things, plus like specifically iodine. And I'm liking the idea. I'm happy I didn't really see it in Silent Hill monster designs there. Maybe they were somewhere, but I haven't seen them on the most iconic characters, specifically like bandages, right? So yeah, back in the day, I was really into this flamey, everything is on fire, like standing in the flow of an infinite explosion coming from a sun, or like the beginning of a universe, but like it's a state of explosion that's happening forever. So it's just constant pain, and you just start seeing the new world, the new meanings and new patterns inside of this constant noise and never-ending pain. Like, think about what the world would look like if you're in constant agony like that, like being in a constant explosion in like 1,000 degrees and everything, and you will just be in that forever, and you'll just have to, you know, get used to it and find new ways of just looking at things. That state is really well represented by the music of The Angelic Process to me. So that's like the core of my inspiration that I really wanna flash out into something, quite literally. This was another painting that I can't show you in its full glory, but you can see what's the point of it, I guess. You see also these flashy motifs and very flamey colors. It's pretty much the same thing. So let's do those colors. You see, it's a common trend and a very correct thing to use. In many games, monsters are actually light. Why? Because the games are usually dark. If you make monsters dark, you just won't see them. So let's see, I'm gonna get rid of the vertex coloring here. Like, this already just looks better, you know? It means I very much failed with choosing colors. Things should look better when you add textures, not worse. This is so bad, like I hate it. So let's start exploring. I'm thinking my biggest interest right now is whether the egg yolk should be on the like darker side of the contrast like this, or on the brighter side, meaning being slightly brighter than that other stuff. So I'm generally looking with just two plain colors, because like you can play around with details all you want, but in a split second when you see this character, you need to see a certain spot, and that spot needs to be of a certain color. So it's best to start your search with just what color will it be overall. And I really don't think, with some experience that I've got so far on developing, monsters, shouldn't go too much with like going insane black and white contrast on things. On which background is this character gonna really stand out? On the bright one or on the dark one? Because its design includes both, like full range. It's almost like a little bit of a camouflage because of that. The character overall should be either really dark, like Alien, or really pale white. So as I said, that flamey whole thing, I'm very much going for it, but one thing is, these are the neonates. They should be like not the final form of this whole thing, but it definitely should include. Anyway, I think my choice is having something relatively pale and like sick looking on the outside, with a bunch of dirt and blood and iodine stains one way or another. That's a given, but only in like certain details. Like in here, like these bits will be inflamed, so there will be a certain extra flamey bits going on, very sharp. There will be very flamey, very saturated colors like this, but there will be very little of them just on the edges, on the tips. And in here, inside, we're exposing something that's giving us the idea of the nature of the world. In here, it will be all the way cyanide and blood and sawdust eaten by termites, like that combination of thoughts. So yeah, insides will be absolutely gorgeous. And pretty much every character we develop here always has this like insides part, and we can really play around with how it can proceed. Like this is also like in here, pretty much this part is kind of open. In here, this is the inside is literally a broken eggshell. So yeah, I wanna turn vertex color back on here and go for these colors again on this main character. Let me just copy that color to my color attribute. Boom. Oh yeah, I'm definitely feeling like egg yolk should be actually a bit darker like this. But yeah, I want to just paint around on our first sculpted to the end guy here and get him to have like these overall spots of what I want to go for. Like kind of like this for the egg yolk, but at certain points it should be brighter and a bit more yellow as well. So the base color I would say would be this. So yeah, did you know guys, you can now totally paint vertex colors in sculpt mode, and it's like super fast. I don't know if they also made actual vertex paint mode fast. No, it's like super slow. Like this is slow because there's a lot of polygons on this model. But if I just switch to sculpt mode and choose pretty much the same tool, it's super fast. So that's awesome. Make sure not to miss out on this. Oh, by the way, I'm also in Blender 3.4, which means I now get to play around with cavity masks. Not quite sure if I'm seeing it. Oh, it's just applied, but I can't see it. It's very rough. There is a blur option there. That's much better. Ugh, I'm gonna have to blur it out a bit later. So let's fill in that inner color with something very different. Let's maybe make it a bit brighter in here. Oh, that's kind of a good color, but it's like, it shouldn't come alone, you know? It's a combination of those colors to create that feeling of iodine burn, something like that. And this whole arm will be like coming from those insides, you know, it will be all of this color too. And making just everything black. It's not like I was going for everything black, I was just sculpting for now, but we really got set on that black color and I realized I didn't make that decision. Man, I gotta say, this vertex painting thing is good stuff. And you can like also smudge in here pretty effectively. Oh, it can pinch and expand. That's kind of cool. So I'll lower its strength, not that much, and just get rid of these artifacts that we got in here. We'll go into much higher specifics in Substance, of course, but I'll probably send this texture over later. If I'll be able to save it at all, I don't know, because I don't even have a UV map or a final topology at all. This is totally a messed up sculpt topology, but I'm just, you know, looking for things right now. Alright, it's also right here in the brush settings, this cavity map. So factor is how little surface you want to have left, how much it masks out. And like full is pretty much perfect half of the surface in terms of curvature angles. And I can customize the curve here too, that's cool. I don't know, that's what I do by default when I see a curve. It would be great to, like, you know, still have this mask as a real mask, so I could just blur the whole mask and work with, like, blurred detail, because these cavity details, they're always so sharp. Is factor actually smoothing it out? Oh, it's like a smaller radius, so even inside, in the center of a big cavity, it won't be painting it. Because it's like, the cavity is now a smaller scale, like this is a cavity and this is like a flat surface now. That's how it works, I see. But nonetheless, it kind of results in a softer look. I know we have this blur thing, but I also know it's not doing exactly what you would think of blur. Like, this is like sharp, right? And if you apply like 5 blurs, well, okay, it is softer. Yeah, it's like a smart blur, if you wish. Oh, how cool is that? If you have a bunch of separate pieces of meshes inside of one object that you're sculpting, you just hover your mouse over one object, hit H, and everything disappears but this object. I had no idea. Just intuitively did it and it worked. Really cool. So what would this mean if I'm using cavity? Because I want to have like much more coverage despite working with like cavity mode. So yeah, let's start with this super sharp nonsense here, then blur it and see where we go from there. How do I blur it? Oh, by the way, another new feature in Blender 3.4. Now we have color filter. So before we had mesh filter, where you can like smooth all the vertices of the whole mesh, or like relax them, inflate them, whatever. Everything applied like to the whole object, not really a brush, but like a filter. Then we have cloth filter, which does the same thing, but like, oh no, that's probably too intense. But you see it's like starting to fall down as a cloth. It was also for the whole character or whatever you mask out. And now we have color filter. And in here, yep, we have smoothing for colors. Yeah, this is great. This is exactly what I needed right now. And again, it doesn't have to be on everything. You can mask out a specific part that you want to blur out and then apply that filter. Okay, let's go a bit more brutal on the insides. That's pretty much what I want to do today, just look for a color scheme. So I think another important key word here is inflammation. We're showing all the inflammation. Not specifically, you know, blood. No. We want like flesh, skin, sticky, gross, sick. All the joints are inflamed, you know. All the bits, like corners around the nails, even though this thing doesn't have nails. Maybe it will. I can like draw them in with the height brush in Substance. But the whole point was that it's all covered with like goop, so there shouldn't be such tiny details in there anyway. But I could add like a hint. I like how being a bit more careful and like accurate with the like smaller brush size when you're adding these red spots on the fingers really pays off, you know, when you're like specifically painting this joint, like the skin that's stretching and contracting in here. will get more inflamed, you know, like overall around the joint, like at the tip of the finger where there's like the tip of the nail and around the nail, you know, it will be more inflamed. And when you do like more specific, smaller, even though still smooth, you know, and vague brush strokes, really starts looking like you mean something. It's looking very irritated. It's terrible, like a burn. Oh yeah, that's much better. So yeah, think that, but like a lot more all over the character. Oh, Shift H is only hiding one object that you're hovering. Nice. So I'll alter that egg yolk's color a bit later. Right now I'm just working on everything at once. This is absolutely terrifying. Jesus Christ, yeah. There you go, now we're talking. Beautiful. Now let's see about you. Let's start with the base of that cavity, just as far as this, because the rest is hidden anyway. And then I would like fill you with a bucket, if there is a bucket in here. Maybe in here there is a bucket actually. Yeah, fill. Awesome. It was really missing here, I guess, before. So, something like this more yellow saturated thing. Do I just tap and drag? Oh yeah, it works. It's such an interesting way to do things. Filling by clicking and dragging, and it just fades in. Oh my god, it's like a pus. Disgusting. Now let's see, maybe a bit more orange and dark. Nah. Really interesting trying to find that color I want in here. I feel like we need to introduce a bit more yellow to the thing. I was thinking I was going with like more of an orange color, but really it's just a bloody flesh right now, right? That's not quite what I wanted. Oh, this is looking fun too. So maybe we can do something here. Like I want to change all the reds, right? There should be something. What? Red. Oh, just making it red. Or less red, okay. Well, hue I can kind of work with, but it will change the skin too. But I'm actually fine with it, it's looking pretty good right now. Like this is just classical bloody flesh. And this is something more interesting and closer to the theme of yellows. Maybe I have this as a base right now and then add a bit more red where I feel like I should. Yeah, I think this is perfect. What about the egg yolk now? Oh, it's pretty much the same color now. So I would make it like darker. Yeah, like more of that. Again. And I guess the actual goop will stay of this pus color, which kind of makes sense. Because I don't want it to be like the drips of actual something that looks like blood. That's lame. So I think I figured it out, like with the blurring of cavity masks and everything. So, if you start with like this, and you have like a good cavity mask, but it's insanely artifacted and everything. So what you do is you blur, right? You blur a few times, And it's like removed a lot of details, still not very good quality, and like you have a lot less details covered. Well, thing is, you blur like a lot till you don't see artifacts till it gets like soft. Well, to an extent, as much as your, topology allows. I have pretty low topology in many places, but generally, it's getting smoother. And then like, why am I not covering the smaller details? Well, that's what factor is for, right? We lower this and now we'll be covering smoothly, but including a lot more like smaller details. And that's a great combination of sliders here to work with all this. Let's make knees very inflamed. You can pretty much like never turn off cavity mode. You just like, if you want to cover more surface, you really lower that factor. Like at 0, you're pretty much painting, I think, without the cavity mask. And increasing it a little bit, it will still be slightly lighter on the bumps. It's kind of natural to always paint complex 3D surfaces this way, I would say, if you have a good control like this. I feel like this arm should be a bit more bloody, implying that it's killing. Like old bloodstains that you can't wash off because of how much the skin is washed in it. Something like that. Okay, this is looking very interesting. I'm increasing roughness a bit. I think this is egg yolk though. Well, egg yolk can be pretty slippery, like sticky gross, but the skin, I feel like it could tone it down. Oh, this is looking cool. Oh, the egg yolk isn't using vertex color, which is renamed to color attribute now. There you go, little fella. Little scamp. Man, this whole hiding thing is so good. Now that I know this, I will always be sculpting objects that are like joined together. Very convenient to work with. In many ways, this workflow is much better than one Substance has. Because, well, first of all, this is a proper painting mode where you can paint on the edge of an object and that part won't be painted, so it's not projecting from the screen, because this is vertex painting. Another thing, like, you have an actual eyedropper. You can like grab this color, paint here, grab the in-between color, and really define color as well. It's really cool. You literally, there is no eyedropper in Substance. Why? Because you're painting with materials. Like, what exactly are you eyedropping, Which layer? And there is probably just no way an eyedropper would make sense with that. But if you just want to actually, paint colors on a surface just like this, then maybe like just vertex painting in Blender is actually a much better option. Not maybe, I think it's pretty clear. I'm loving how this egg yolk is very shiny comparing to the flesh. Maybe it should be like even more aggressively shiny, because I will add more moisture to the flesh where it's like red and inflamed. So the egg yolk could really use some of that lumen reflections in Unreal Engine 5, Looking cool like this, but better. So yeah, I guess this is kind of the new colors for these basic enemies. It will be, of course, much more detailed with specific details of inflammation and pus and blood and whatever. But that, of course, will happen in Substance. Alright, here we go. So this is our new color scheme, and this is nuts. This is so much better than what it was. Now the inside part is really separated from the outside, and that's so cool. And you can see everything very well if we go in like nighttime thing. Oh my god. Maybe I still should think a little bit about that egg yolk. I feel like maybe something could be a bit better about its color. What if it's just a lot darker? Like still kind of yellow, but like dark brown, really? Alright, this is the final version for now. You guys be the judges, but for me this is it. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye! Oh my god. That looks like a butt now. Oh, this guy will work so much better. All these colors there. A lot of things will change now. Not you, go away.